On today's World Insight, a new chapter in China's manned space program as the three-crew Shenzhou 16 links up with the Chinese space station. How exciting and game-changing is the space mission? Here's our host, Tian Wei.
Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Milestones in China's space program as the Shenzhou 16 manned spacecraft blasted off to the China space station on Tuesday morning.
起飞，T0 3分13秒，48动后秒。
It is the first manned mission in the new phase of the space station. The three taikonauts, as Chinese astronauts are being called, entered the space station Tuesday evening and met with the Shenzhou 15 crew members living there. The six taikonauts then took a group photo. The get-together kicked off the second in-orbit crew rotation at the China space station. The Shenzhou 16 crew will stay there and carry out work for about 5 months. So what are the new breakthroughs of China's latest manned mission? What are the key goals of this mission? What do all the latest innovations in the world mean for future exploration of the outer space? I invite a panel from different parts of the world for answers. I'm joined in Washington, D.C., Dr. Amitabh Ghosh, a space scientist working on NASA Mars mission. In Beijing, Xu Yansong, Director General of the Asia-Pacific Space Exploration Organization. Also in Beijing, Zhang Fan, Associate Professor of Astronomy with Beijing Normal University. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Mr. Xu, have you been sleeping well recently? Because there are a lot of things going on with China's latest manned space exploration missions.
Well, I woke up at 4 o'clock yesterday. I went to the studio to witness and assisting the broadcast of the launching of the Shenzhou 16.
Yeah.
What an exciting moment. We see that for the very first time, the historic moment that a civilian is flying into the station for the first time with glasses. I think that is unprecedented before because all astronauts are forbidden to wear any glass. But this time, we have a civilian on board. So he is a professor, renowned professor from Beihang University in aeronautics and astronautics. And he is chosen from more than 2,000 candidates. He's going to be performing the payload experiments.
Yes.
In addition to that, we have the old veteran, Qing Haipeng, who's the captain on board for this mission. And also we have an engineer who's going to be checking the integrity of the station itself.
So what does that mean, this current step toward the future manned mission to the moon, China decides and made public 2030?
Well, I think that is also a very exciting moment that we heard 2030 will be boots on the moon once again for the persons from China. I think this is all encouraging to hear, and also a lot of things needs to be done for in particular a large launch vehicle and also a new generation capsule capable of putting more crews on board. So all of this has been done already. What we call advanced experiments has been done. So we're excited to look forward to that moment, and also the station for the manned mission will be used as a stepstone for experiments and testings for the manned mission, for the moon mission.
Observing from afar, Dr. Ghosh in Washington, D.C., tell me more about your thoughts on the latest manned mission from China.
It's incredible. So you see, robotic missions are relatively easier to do, much lower budget, but going to the moon with human beings is a very big deal. So it is. So the U.S. went 50 years back, and then now they're all set to go back again. It took them 50 more years to go back, and it's a huge capability. It's if you think of the risk profile. You're taking people almost 375,000 miles away. You have to make sure they're safe, and the risk profile of the mission is such that it supports us astronauts. The landing has to be safe. There has to be a way to come back. If there was an exigency, there has to be a plan. So the fact that China is announced this and they intend to do this in 7 years, it's a huge deal. So it is kind of the coming of age of space exploration from a very niche activity which was supported by one country to right now you see many countries coming in, and then also the private sector coming in. Nobody would have, in any serious person would have said that, well, there would be a Starship, a commercial company who's trying to go to the moon.
Talking about the manned mission in the outer space, of course, commercial-wise, we also see Elon Musk as a pioneer in that regard is traveling and visiting China. A lot of discussions are taking place on the sideline on various different natures. So, Associate Professor Zhang, tell me more about your thoughts on, how do you see this link between, nation-supported manned space mission exploration and the future goals about going to the moon by human beings, and also at the same time space traveling. How do you see this parallel development going on right now?
I think the Elon Musk is certainly inspirational for a lot of people. For example, a lot of these state-backed projects nowadays are basically inspired by him. It's not like before him, nobody's thought about reusing the rockets, but they did the calculation, and 10 times is the minimum you need to reuse it for it to be profitable. And at that time, it's just too much of a unknown for the state sector to invest public money to do this kind of things. But when he put in his own money, risk his own head, and did all that admirably, nowadays, China is doing reusable rockets as well, and because it's state sector, it has certain advantages over the private sector. For example, the consistent funding, the large testing facilities. So China doesn't have to do the kind of risky things that Elon Musk has to do with, for example, the very recent Starship launch. He just couldn't do all the tests that was really needed. So I see the state sector and the private sector going sort of one going faster for a little while, and then the other goes the other direction. So it's like two legs that helps you walk faster. So I really like the existence of the private sector. Yeah.
Going to the moon for China, Mr. Xu, how do you see the next few important steps in making sure the manned space mission on the moon will be a success?
But I think everyone knows 50 years ago, the Apollo mission put dozens of astronauts onto the lunar surface. We know that has been what we call it, no budget programs, which means that it's a whole nation effort. It's also a Cold War result. But right now we have to be more rational. We understand that there are scientific goals. We're going to the moon not to paint it red, because we're going to the moon for scientific purpose. We do have a series of programs, as the nation have seen, and also the international have seen. The international community have seen that the Chang'e mission, from Chang'e 1 to Chang'e 2, we rerouted to an asteroid quite a distance away, and Chang'e 3, which is a landing and rover mission. Chang'e 4 land on the far side of the moon for the first time in human history, and Chang'e 5 also for more than 20 years or 30 years, we have for the first time taken samples back to Earth, 1.7 plus kilograms. So all of those are what we call prelude of the NAM mission, and in particular the Chang'e 5 mission. The sample return mission is a miniature returning mission of the human mission, because we have all process that has been validated for the manned mission in a smaller scale. So I think that paved the way for the human mission in the future. We also know the trajectories and the ballistics And so we know that that we can do this technically in theory. And also we continue that mission with Chang'e 6 and 7, which is to explore the situ resource on the south pole of the moon. So all of that will be a paved way process for the manned mission.
Imagine you can travel from one part of the world, from maybe you can go from China to Brazil in 24 hours. The moon is just 72 hours away. So the goal is to have reliable infrastructure, travel infrastructure, so that you can go back and forth affordably. Okay, so that is the overall vision. And the second vision is, which Jeff Bezos is pursuing, this time going to the moon is not for exploration, it's to stay and put up a base. So instead of having a space station 250 miles above Earth, you should have a base on the moon, just as you have a base in Antarctica. So, and that is very doable. The hurdle there, the steps that you mentioned, is we need to be able to develop technology to mine the moon for water and for oxygen and for other materials. Others, the specific steps that you're saying, Starship, it's going through the technology demonstration phase. I'm sure you're following. The last one wasn't successful. It blew up 4 minutes into flight. Starship is part of the landing system on the moon. So it has to work.
What is the relations between the moon, a manned space moon project, with the Mars project, Dr. Ghosh, you're working on?
For Mars, whatever you see has been robotic, and it will be robotic for a long time. Why? Because it takes 7 months to get there, and that's the shortest distance. The moon is less than 500,000 miles. So because of that, anything to do with humans and Mars is going to be hard, and it's going to be expensive. So the moon is going to be the testing ground to prove all these technologies, the life support system, the flight system, the landing system. The Mars is more aspirational. It will probably come down the way when costs come down. But at this point, I think the focus is on the moon and going back to set up a base.
Fascinating. Also, Mr. Xu.
Well, I think China is continuing its robotic mission. So does many other countries. We know there are also commercial efforts that to land on the surface of the moon. We know that from a international initiative I joined a couple of years back, which is called ISECG, International Space Exploration Coordination Group. That is also the prelude of the Artemis Accord. So that also laid out a roadmap, or a scientific roadmap for explorations. First, of course, use the International Space Station. For our case, it's using the Chinese space station to validate and demonstrate some of the technologies that we can use on the surface of other planetary bodies. Second is to capture and maneuver an uncooperative body in the lunar vicinity, of course, like an asteroid that we can drag and maneuver. And third, of course, is land on the surface of the moon and to validate technologies and use in situ resource, including some lunar volatiles, to generate more energies so that we can use the moon as a stepstone to go to Mars. But going to Mars by human is very challenging technology-wise, because we know that the radiation on the lunar surface is still encircled by the Earth. So we still have protection from the Earth magnetic fields in the lunar surface, but not the case for interplanetary traveling to Mars. We're fully exposed to the radiation of the sun. So that is very harmful to human. And also, as Dr. Ghosh said, budgetary-wise, if you want to be an interplanetary species, you have to pay. Very expensive.
We are seeing a renewed enthusiasm for outer space exploration by human beings, and also going beyond the boundary, to the Mars and even further into the universe. On the other hand, there's a parallel innovation explosion right now we are seeing with artificial intelligence, and all in the world, all trade, all professional thinking about how to incorporate and how to work with and how to, eventually go hand in hand with artificial intelligence. Now, what does that mean for outer space exploration, particularly the manned space program? That's fascinating. Mr. Zhang, maybe you can start by explaining to us your thoughts.
For going to very far away, outer solar system, that kind of tasks, I think AI will be the key. And there's no point trying to even get humans to try to go there because that's just not really cost effective anymore. I mean, humans, people say that when you go into space and look at Earth, it changes your perspective. You realize, you live, the atmosphere is a tiny, thin layer just above the ground, and the human can only survive at the very bottom of that.
Yeah.
Changing the temperature, the pressure, the acidity, anything a little bit, humans are dead. So humans just not built to get out of that little thin layer. So going into deep space with the radiation, with the
So you're saying
with
AI will do a much
loneliness.
better job. That's your point?
It has to be AI because you can't even remotely control things if they go very far because the light is really slow. It takes forever to get back to you. So it has to be some sort of autonomous thing that can make decisions by itself, very smart decisions by itself.
So do you know in the outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, they have satellites, and under the crust, there is huge oceans there, like bigger than the Pacific Ocean, like in Europa. So these oceans are dark, and so is the ocean on Earth after 1 kilometer. It's dark, yet there is life on Earth's oceans at like 5 kilometers deep depth. So is there life there? AI can help solve the problem because human controllers from Earth will not. So you have to have a submarine which digs in and goes into those oceans, and it has to propel itself and find its way and look at interesting things and make interesting analysis. The human cannot be in the loop. So that's one example. Second example, the nearest star is 4 light years away. It will take 75,000 years for a spacecraft to go to that spacecraft. Human beings used to live maybe 10,000 years ago. We were hunter-gatherers. We used to stay in the forest. We did not even have the agricultural revolution. In 75,000 years, we will not be alive. It is possible the human race will not be there. So you will have this artificial intelligence-driven spacecraft trying to go to the nearest star or to find the nearest life form. So this is a very interesting frontier which will come into play. AI will drive a lot of technology and science around us. And in space exploration also, it will come in and it will revolutionize different things, I feel.
Fascinating. Mr. Xu.
Oh, I like the word revolution. I think AI is bringing in a new revolution. I think starting from the agriculture, the industry, and the internet, and now we have AI. I think everyone knows the ChatGPT. I think it's just the tip of the iceberg of AI capabilities. AI is more resilient. I mean, in terms of the silicon form, it's much more stronger than the carbon form that we are residing in, because silicon form can survive without oxygen, without water, and can go quite far distance. So I think exploration of interplanetary and even interstar travelings needs to be in silicon form. So that it means that the silicon form AI can be the exploration pioneers and also can be the brain of the robotic missions. So we are continuing our robotic missions in planetary, like the lunar and Mars missions. We know that the Chang'e mission and the Tianwen mission, all of these are brained by silicon chips. But with the advance of AI, I think we can do much more in the robotic missions. But that in combination of human exploration will do a very, very much better results in the solar exploration. But for my understanding, I think the Mars is probably the farthest distance that human can travel.
Very interesting. But will that this whole new wave of innovation, especially about artificial intelligence, put into question, or a second thought at least, about the goals of outer space exploration for human beings?
The human being can go to other planets that we will become, that we call ourselves interplanetary species. But I think that is just to gain the competence and capabilities of traveling in between stars. I think that is what we can see at this moment. But maybe future, hundreds and thousands of years later, we would not perceive this as what we're seeing now. But I think right now we're just exploring.
AI may help look at, say, planetary atmospheres in other solar systems, maybe 10,000 light years away. AI, in one way, you can think that the human race will have a mortality. It will not be forever. Just like dinosaurs, all species on Earth have been there for a smaller envelope. But AI can take our message forward as to who we were when we lived here. We used to talk about time capsule maybe 50 years ago in the novels. So what was, if someone was to find that spacecraft, they would know a little bit of what the Earth was like. See, the primary obstruction to space exploration is that the humans-made spacecrafts are very, very slow, and the universe is very, very large. So it's in terms of billions of light years. And all humans have done is in 50 years, the Voyager mission has traveled 1 light D. And the universe is so big. So AI will perhaps help a little bit to peek into the universe with the help of telescopes, looking at specific spectral signatures, looking at gravity waves to make more sense than we can sitting on Earth.
I think AI will carry the torch of the human civilization. I mean, I would consider humans as with a broader definition. It's what we think that really matters, that needs to be preserved. That's our legacy. And from that point of view, AI being our salt product, the product of our imagination now and our understanding of the world, is actually more representative of us than our biological humans, science, which are really product of nature, evolution, rather than we didn't design them, right? We didn't design ourselves.
How will that transform the research capabilities and also the makeup of types of research and the people who are doing the research in the outer space programs all over the world? Dr. Ghosh.
If an AI spacecraft is able to take the data, look at the data, and arrive at scientific results, what happens to the scientists? You don't need scientists, right?
At least most of them, as we speak.
Most of them. So, right. So just as every other industry is affected, so if ChatGPT can write a letter to, I don't know, to a travel agency, then if you have an AI spacecraft which could do all of these, then you would need much less scientists. You would need the scientists to design that instrument, but after that, you don't perhaps need. And in a way, it can be good because the entire world, it can be dissipated on the internet, this information. Yeah. It can go directly into common people who are interested and to schools. So it will be a new way of looking, just like, see, Twitter and has democratized news. You can like whoever you want and you can follow them and you can find out what they feel.
And also creating controversies about news as well.
Of course. It has made it a nightmare.
Yes, the other side of the coin. So to you, Mr. Xu, about how will these technologies be able to transform, the space research that we are doing today? Part of the space research is pretty much manual labor, because there is competition, I guess, between countries and different entities, and therefore the online research related to security might be a problem. So how do you see, the future, this development of AI likely to transform the research area, teams, and also the capabilities of researchers?
Well, I think when we talk about explorations, we and also in Chinese engineering system, we separate into two categories. One is technology innovations, technology development, and one is the scientific goal studies. These are done by two different communities. One is by the technicians, engineers, who knows how to build rocket, who knows how to build a satellites, and the monitors, the sensors, and the robotic arms. The other community is just setting up the goals. You can go there. I want to grab a piece of the moon from that site, and I want to study that. So these are two different categories. When you talk about capabilities, competitions, this is on the technology side. When we know that different countries are avoiding giving technologies to the other side for military concerns, because lots of space-related technologies are dual use. But on the other hand, for scientific studies, we can be quite cooperative with other scientists in a global scale. Europeans, Americans, Chinese, Russians can cooperate on the study of the moon lunar surface for its ecological purpose, for its chemical, biological, or even some radioactive studies. So all of these can be separated into two categories. I think the AI in one side can play a very important role in manufacturing and technology innovations, and also how to control the robots in other planets. But on the other side, scientists, I think, has to work together. This cannot be done by a single AI or AI technology.
We have seen the ups and downs of cooperation over the decades. How much can we expect, from the scientist perspective, realistically speaking, in the near future? Dr. Ghosh.
So scientists always want to collaborate. It's kind of they're part of the same team looking at the same problem, just across different boundaries. It's like one way of looking at it. Then there should be a reason for two countries to collaborate. So maybe one country needs something else, a specific instrument, the other country needs another instrument, and they're going to the same destination. And they think, well, maybe we should collaborate.
Xu Yuansong, Amitabh Ghosh, Zhang Fan, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. Fascinating discussion. And that's all we have for today. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei. Thanks for watching World Insight, and see you back here tomorrow.